I have always found carbon fiber guitars very interesting. So when a company reached out and said that they make a carbon fiber guitar that's more affordable, and that's why in today's deep dive, we're going to be checking out the new electric guitars from Klos Guitars with their new model called the Apollo. Now with the Apollo, they're making wood body guitars with carbon fiber necks. Now these guitars start at $1,299 and they're able to keep the cost down by importing the parts and assembling them in the US. The base model will come with an Akume body, which is like mahogany, painted white, with polyurethane, which all models in the series will have polyurethane. Another thing they have in common is the bodies are 41 millimeters thick. That's different than Fender's Strats, which are 44 millimeters thick. Now that thinner body and this contour on the heel makes it really easy to play in the upper frets. The base model will come with a 24 3/4 scale carbon fiber neck, and it also includes the Klos blackout pickups. Now these pickups are not to be confused with Seymour Duncan blackout pickups. They're not the same, but you can pay to upgrade the color, the pickups. You can switch this to 25.5-inch scale and even switch it to an ash body if you like. So let's focus on what features come standard on every model you might want to choose, and that's going to be a Graphtec nut, a carbon fiber neck with a composite fretboard, medium nickel frets, dot inlays, and a 12-inch radius fretboard. Another feature all versions of this guitar will have is their gig bag. Now their gig bag allows you to put the guitar in assembled or disassembled, and it comes with a little screwdriver and you can take the neck off. Not only do the guitars include the gig bag and the little screwdriver, they all include 2 picks and a capo, so you can capo the strings down. When you receive the guitar, it's going to look exactly like this. So it comes kind of disassembled and you install the neck. The only concern I had was when I took the neck off to pack it up and ship it back to Klos Guitars, a little bit of the paint came off in the bolts. Although it is set up so you can take the neck on and off, you will want to be very careful. Now you can pay to upgrade to a tremolo system. However, they come standard with a Klos solid aluminum bridge with brass saddles. Another standard feature is the carbon fiber pickguard. They all have that, and you can get any pickup combination that you would desire, and we'll talk about some of that in the geeky stuff. All right, it's time for the geeky stuff. Let's get into it. Now, first thing we want to do is check the relief of the neck. Just a little bit of relief, and it looks great. And I show the action at 1.75 millimeters, so just under 2 millimeters. So this is good. We're checking the frets to make sure there's no high frets here, and there's absolutely no high frets. Okay, so let's do the sock test. I'm really curious because they're not really polished on the ends, but they feel smooth. It doesn't even feel like there's fret ends. Look at that. There's not a single mark on this. That's really impressive. I'm gonna do it one more time just to make sure I didn't miss something. Nope. I mean, it literally feels like nothing. They're just so blended into the fretboard so well. Let's try the bass side. And a little bit more here. Not bad, but I can feel it catching. You can see, there it is. But I have to say, it looks great. I would definitely give this a 4.5 out of 5. However, the frets aren't level. They're not very polished. You can see a lot of tooling marks, and if you listen right here, you can hear how gritty that is. So let's polish the fret and show you the difference. I'm just gonna use my Dremel, and I'm gonna polish up this fret, and then we'll listen so you can see how removing the friction makes a huge difference. If you get one of these guitars and you decide you want to polish your frets, I have a bunch of videos that will show you how to do that. One thing I caution you on, if you use a Dremel, keep in mind you want to be very, very skilled with it, because if you heat these frets up too much, there could be glue bonding this to the composite fretboard, and that could cause you issues. Now looking at the nut, let's go ahead and check to see how well they cut those slots. A way to do this is use your ring finger and to press down on the 3rd fret, and use your pointer finger to push down on the 1st fret. What you're looking for is exactly what I see right here. Just a little bit of play. So no play or a little bit of play is fine as long as it's not buzzing. And we just do that to each string. And so far, so good. And this is a real fast, easy test. So that's a great way to test to see how well the slots were cut. So let's do some measurements. We have the nut at about 42.83 or 43 millimeters, which makes it about a 1.69 nut width. Now the thickness at the 1st fret is 21.91 millimeters or about 0.87, which is very common. And the thickness of the neck at the 12th fret is 23.27 millimeters or 0.091, which is very common. And again, this is a very typical neck depth that we're seeing. What isn't typical is what's coming up next. When I first picked up this guitar, I thought the neck felt very similar but very different, and I figured out why. It reminds me of the Jeff Beck neck, and ironically that's the closest contour to it, which is one of Fender's necks that I really like. It's more like a U, it's less like a C. It doesn't feel big. It's not a thick neck, it's not huge, it's just got wide shoulders. When someone says a neck has wide shoulders, what they're referring to is the neck doesn't taper off very quickly from the center. In other words, whatever the thickness of the center is, it kind of holds that thickness for a majority of the way to the edge. Another neck that's really known for that feel is the Ibanez AZ series, but maybe a little thinner, but still in the same realm. So what we were able to figure out with the Klos pickups is that they're ceramic magnet humbuckers and they're fully shielded. The coils are vacuum sealed and then encapsulated, preventing them from getting microphonics. This is so that they can make a very powerful passive pickup. Taking a look at the bridge, we have 11.38K and a very flat EQ spectrum. If you look at the neck, you got 11.33K, which is about the same. Again, very powerful and a very flat EQ curve. These pickups are very reminiscent in sound to the EMG HZ style of passive pickups. So looking at the pickups, you can see they're also encased in epoxy, which is something common for this type of pickup. So let's look at the electronics. What we have here is two full-size alpha pots made in Korea with a 0.22 microfarad capacitor. The soldering looks okay. I don't like to see big globs of solder on things. Sometimes that can lead to problems down the road. What looks like burn marks on the wires is not. It's just the color. If you look at the stripe on that white wire, it's not burnt. You can see right there. It looks like it was burnt, but it's not. And of course, they have some shielding tape on the base of the pickguard. Looking at the cavity, you can see why they can accommodate all kinds of pickup sizes. You can see it's routed for P90 or humbucker or single coils. You can see they can pretty much put anything in there. And they have some deep cavities for the longer screws if you go with different types of pickups. Something I didn't know, so we're checking out right here, is that it's weight relieved. They routed out a section right here. This also gives them space to put the battery in if they want to go active. They can either put a compartment on the back or just put the battery right here. And of course, here is the electronics cavity. And this looks like shielding paint. We're going to test it. It does not look very good, but let's see if it works. So what we're going to do now is check to make sure this is actually shielding paint and it's actually doing a good job. What we're going to take is the two probes from this multimeter and we're going to test to see if we can get conductivity. So it is metallic shielding paint. Let's try it from the side, working as well. The other side. It's working as well. So it is doing what it's supposed to do. But see this spot right here? You can see there's no conductive paint there and look, no signal. So let me move it over to the side and signal. So this is why it's important to put the shielding paint everywhere and cover 100% of the area. This isn't the end of the world. This guitar will still work and function the way it should. But of course, we want to see them do a complete job. Now, when it comes to the weight of these guitars, the white one came in at 6.5 pounds and the blue one at 7 pounds. When it comes to resale value, it's an unknown because there isn't any used ones that I could find anywhere. It's too new of a product line. But for competitors, you can look at Parker Nightflies. Those are ranging about the same price or less, made in the USA, but they are in the used market. Status makes custom ones in Europe, but they are very expensive comparably. So there's not a whole lot of competition and there's not a whole lot of information. Okay, so now it's time for the sound samples. And I'm gonna start with a Fender 65 Deluxe Reverb, mic'd up with an SM57. Beautiful. Now this 24 3/4 neck feels really comfortable. Let's go to the bridge. Middle position. So now I've switched to the Bad Cat Cub 40 for the rock sounds through a vintage 30 cabinet with an SM57. Here we go. Okay, let's go to the neck pickup. So now I've switched over to the Engl Fireball 25 and also running that through a vintage 30 and a SM57. Let's give this a shot. Now this model has upgraded because it's in a color, so it's $100 for a color. It's basically just under $100 to upgrade to the 25.5-inch scale, 24 fret neck. And of course this has locking keys, so that's the main ones. And then of course this has Fishman Fluence, and then there's an upgrade to go to the 2-knob to 4-knob set. That's up to you if you want to set up more like a Les Paul or more like a 2-knob configuration. So with all those options, this guitar is about $2,300. Let's start with the neck position. So let's go ahead and go to the bridge. And of course there is different modes. And coil splits. Now I have it in the Bad Cat Cup 40 with the Vintage 30 again. This is where you'll really notice this has the coil split. Okay, and last we're going to be in that Engl. So some final thoughts on the guitar that might be helpful to you. First is the neck is going to feel like a painted neck. It's basically a polyurethane over the carbon fiber. So if you like painted necks, you'll like this. Another thing that's worth noting is the frets are pressed into the fretboard, which is a composite phenolic resin fretboard. In other words, refretting it is just like refretting a wood fretboard. It's not going to be much different. So you don't have to worry about what do I do if you need a refret in a few years. But for future models, if they make the frets stainless steel, you'll have a neck that'll last a lifetime. The rolled edges are very slightly rolled. In other words, they're just not sharp. When I say slightly rolled, that's what I mean. There's no sharp end. It's not feeling like a big deal here, but it's not a rolled fretboard by any means. But there is no issues where it's cutting into the side of my hands. The overall fit and finish on the guitar was good. My only concerns being in the little area when we talked about the shielding paint, but it didn't hinder the performance of the guitar. It's something I'd like to see improved on. I'd also like to see a better fit and finish on the frets, especially since this is a carbon fiber neck and there's a lot of concerns if you don't know how to work with these necks. Other than that, I think they have a solid guitar with some cool features, and I have to say it's a great start to a lineup of electric guitars. On that note, as always, I want to thank you so much for hanging out till the end of the video and spending some time with me today. Till the next time, know your gear.